I think there's a lot of people that try to teach things when they don't really know how to do them well. There's a lot of people that aren't as good as they ought to be in order to be teaching skills like this. I think the biggest thing that got me started was kind of like that anger.
Pedro Bermudez built one of the fastest growing communities teaching people how to start online businesses after years of building and testing them himself.
So I've worked with hundreds of Amazon sellers who have generated millions of dollars in revenue.
Hundreds of people have gone through his program, many of them quietly replacing their salaries with e-commerce businesses. And today, he's here to explain how ordinary people can use the internet to build income that doesn't depend on trading time for money.
I proposed to myself was to build the best possible coaching program around making money online. I built a pretty large community from it. Hundreds of people have tried it. A lot of them are doing really well. I'm just a regular guy that started doing one thing over and over again and was able to make it work. Maybe that's interesting to somebody who's wanting to get out of their regular 9 to 5 job, make extraordinary money, and just live a better life.
Cool. Pedro, I just wanted to ask you, why would someone listening to this podcast would have to listen to the whole episode?
I think what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to share my personal journey, and maybe that's interesting to somebody who's wanting to get out of their regular 9 to 5 job, make extraordinary money, and just live a better life. I'm not an extraordinary person. I'm just a regular guy that started doing one thing over and over again and was able to make it work. And I really believe that you can do that with anything.
All right. So, what made you then do what you've been doing and now what you've been teaching someone?
I think there's a lot of people that try to teach things when they don't really know how to do them well. So one of the things that really annoyed me about the info space in general is that there's a lot of people that aren't as good as they ought to be in order to be teaching skills like this. So what I proposed to myself was to build the best possible coaching program around making money online, and I built a pretty large community from it. Hundreds of people have tried it. A lot of them are doing really well, and there's a lot of there's a lot of buzz around it. But I think the biggest thing that got me started was kind of like that anger. Like it made me kind of angry that there were people out there that weren't that good that were teaching this, and a lot of people were disappointed at the end with their results. So what I wanted to do was do something different, something that really helped people, really helped families.
I like the that the anger was a bit of a fuel to what you're doing. Basically, from what I understood, you saw a lot of people teaching out there all of these ways of selling products online, and you didn't feel like they actually knew what they were doing, and then you kind of that motivated you to start doing it. Like, let me handle that. And
Yeah, no, I wanted to add a layer of sophistication, right? Because
okay.
there's just better ways of going about doing e-commerce, like
Hmm.
data-driven decision making and really understanding customer needs and what people are actually buying. It's a lot easier to get into the e-com space if you already know what to sell and
Hmm.
you have a clear path by somebody who's already done it and been doing it for years that is really going to guide you through it. So that's what I wanted to put together. It's more like a playbook based on real experience, right?
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, it's like I've been involved and I've seen this happening. People like teaching some things or even coaches coaching stuff that they've never done it. Most of them, they just read some books about it, watched some courses on YouTube, and then they are like, I'm going to do it as well. And what I like about your story is that you actually had a day job, right? And then you started doing this. So I wanted to go in a bit into this backstory.
Yeah, sure. I don't know how far you want to start, how far back you want to start, but for me, it never really felt right to get paid a really shitty salary for a lot of stress and a lot of work, especially when the work itself felt meaningless as well. So I just knew I had to do something. Like, I'm not the type of person that's going to come home after work and watch sports or kind of just waste my time playing on my phone. Like, I wanted to actually do something, and I wanted to take whatever free time I had and turn it into something that could be fun to do and also rewarding, right? Because there's a lot of people that have different types of hobbies. A lot of them are just cash burn. Some of them are like self destructive. I wanted to build something with my wife that my kids could see grow from nothing so that they would take away a lesson from that. That you could do whatever you want in life if you just apply yourself to it. And that was my big reason behind it. Like, I was just kind of bored with the 9 to 5. I didn't like the rules that I had to follow. I didn't like having to ask somebody for a vacation. I just felt very constricted. And at the end of the day, even though it was a six-figure salary at big companies, it didn't feel like I had much left over at the end of the month. So that's why I got started.
I was just going to point that you had a salary that a lot of people they look for. Their goal in life is to get a six-figure salary. And just
Yeah, man,
imagine,
people need to be more ambitious because a six-figure salary, it's not a whole lot in North America anymore. You know, I think it's just the bare minimum. If you want to have like you need about like if you want to have like a really good life where you're able to travel and have some savings and send your kids to a good school if that's what you want to do and have money for activities and go out for steak on a regular basis, then you need a lot more than just a six-figure salary.
yeah, and not only to count the price of this goal of only six-figure as a salary, right? Like the price of lost opportunity. I might say that if you're working full time to get, let's say, six figures, right? Like, which is not almost enough anymore. How much you could be doing if you were doing something that you really like or something that actually drives you to a richer life that doesn't have to be, I don't know, for at least for me, I don't want to have like a jet necessarily to be happy. But as you said, like if you want to have a family, if you want to have, for example, a place, if you want to be able to eat out sometimes with your family, travel and have
Or even if
experiences.
even if you want to have a big family, right? Like, there's a lot of
Mhm.
people that are stuck with no kids or one child because they fear being able to afford giving them the life that they deserve.
Yeah.
But that's a choice that you need to make. Like, that life that your kids deserve, that's something that's totally in your hands.
From what I understand from your story, it was something that you have this drive of not being you were not happy with what you were doing and you wanted more from life, which usually I say that this is a trait of an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And how do you kind of teach this, because a lot of people are still stuck on the 9 to 5 in a corporate job doing something that they don't like, as you said, with the rules that are governed by the corporation and not you. So how do you kind of reach out to these people to show them like it's more like you are in the matrix, get out of it, I can show you.
You know, a lot of like that comes from just being around different people. So if I can expose you to a different way of making money, and that's why I have my live workshops, because I actually show you how we do this in a very clear manner with a path. And I just show you one way of doing it, but you could just do that and start an e-commerce business and you can keep doing it and you wouldn't have to change a whole lot. You can start pivoting as you get better and you find new techniques, new suppliers, things like that. But it I just expose you to it bit by bit. And then I start bringing in, you know, different perspectives from other very successful people that you notice are not that extraordinary. Like, a lot of very successful people, they're just regular people that just went out and tried things. They just went out and tried the thing. You know, um, I think fear is one of the things that holds most people back from actually achieving anything, right? Because they're afraid that they're not going to succeed. They're afraid they're going to lose money. They're afraid that the opportunity itself doesn't work. And they'll do anything to justify that worldview. They'll do anything to justify it because it makes them feel better. So, what I do through my content is I expose them to people that are doing extraordinarily well, and they're just like them, except for one thing: they didn't let fear hold them back.
It's almost like a limiting belief that they feel like someone else has the control. They cannot change the world. But as you show to your audience that it doesn't require any kind of like special superpowers for you to get started, apart from facing a bit of fear in the beginning. I would say it's more like it's the leap of faith, right? They need to pass the threshold of fear only in the beginning to try something new, and not to be governed by the same rules that are getting them held back.
Yeah. I think a lot of the fear comes internally from people that just don't want to feel foolish trying something new, right? Because everyone's just stuck in this comfort. So, say, like, what's your profession, for example?
Mine,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I have some companies. So one of them
Okay.
is a digital marketing agency,
So,
for example.
okay, so you're a digital marketing guy, but and you understand digital marketing and you feel comfortable in the digital marketing space. But if I said to you, "Hey, we're going to start selling physical products," you might be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I don't know how to do that. I don't really want to start fresh. I don't want to start from zero." And
Mhm.
that it's that fear of failing internally that's going to keep you from actually doing it because you don't want to feel foolish. You don't want to feel like a fool by failing. But when you're trying something new, it's just part of the game. And I'm big on experiments. Like I experiment a lot, and I think that's one of the things that really marks the difference between doing well and doing really well. It's just experimenting because that's when you start finding new things and you discover things by accident.
And I love that approach, the way that I've learned, because I've worked with some startups, right? So what we say is that you have to fail fast. To fail fast, you need to do a lot of experiments, because I may have a hypothesis about the problem, which I will create one, two, three different solutions, and if I try them all, I may even stumble on something that I didn't even believe it would work, a fourth one that works better than the other ones, right? So I
Yeah,
love this
100%.
approach.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do digital marketing, you know it's like that with advertising, right? Like it's like playing blackjack and you're just putting coins into a machine until you hit something and then you just double down on it. And that's all this is. The problem is people are afraid to experiment because it costs them money. And for them, money is very scarce because they make a shit salary. So they're very unwilling to test. And that's where I come in is I help you with the testing because I've done it before and I can guide you down a path which I know works. And when you're winning most of the time, you're less afraid to gamble. You're less afraid to bet on certain things. And that's why mentorship is important, in my opinion. I'm a bit of an addict to mentors and mentorship. Like I've got a lot of programs that I participate in, and the majority of them I don't even finish. I just go in for one specific thing and get what I need out of it, and then move on to the next thing. I implement. I always implement. I just don't learn things for the fun of it. Like it's take a very clear action point, execute it, see the results, measure it, double down, or move on to the next thing. Simple as that.
Yeah, I love that. The whole name of the podcast is learn, apply, and repeat, right?
Oh, there you go.
I am completely in agreement in there, because for me, even in the communities that I'm part of, and we share one of them,
Hmm.
it is all about, I don't have to live in that community, but I'm just paying attention to what's working with other people, and then I try to implement them. I actually found out about you through that community, and that's when I started consuming your content as well. I participated in one of the workshops that you shared as well, and it's incredible. It's like even in my mind, I'm like, okay, this there is something in there. And since then, I'm really like
Hmm.
willing to like I need to talk to Pedro. He needs to come and talk more because I'll be honest. I try to go down the rabbit hole of print on demand in the
Oh yeah,
past,
yeah. I
right?
tried it too.
You, yeah, and then for me it was exactly the same thing. I come from a software engineer background,
Yeah.
right? And every time I go to any of these workshops, and then they show the magic, but they show the magic with some black boxes, my mind immediately goes into reverse engineering and figure out. I think they are doing this, and then sometimes I even ask, like, "Are you doing this?" And then if they don't say, or sometimes they don't know, and that's when I pick it up. Like they've never actually done this. They've learned this somewhere else, but they've never done it. Yours was the first one that I could see like, oh, this has potential because print on demand on itself, you don't bet, right? It's like your entry, the level for you to entry in there is just like, oh, go register to these companies, and then there you go, you have an e-commerce. But what I've seen you showing that we could go a bit over is like how you can take some products and deliver them for Amazon to ship them and then putting that together. And that was the very first time that I saw someone showing that.
So I mean, that's a business that's been around for over 20 years. It's just that a lot of people aren't even aware of it, right? Like if you think Amazon sells everything that they carry in their warehouses, you're wrong. Like 60% of it is sold by people like me. And that's where the opportunity is. And Amazon benefits because they get a piece of my margin. And I benefit because I get to leverage their entire delivery infrastructure across North America and the world now. So all I have to do is establish relationships with brands and wholesale suppliers to get their products at a lower price and then sell them on Amazon at a higher price. And there's no limit to that. You can do that 10,000 times a month. You could do that 100,000 times a month. Right. So that's really what the opportunity is. And what I showed you in that workshop was how to use AI to really identify suppliers and then use the data that Amazon gives you compared to the data that you get from the suppliers and find the price deltas between the two items, knowing how often they're going to sell, which is another data point that Amazon gives us. So it kind of makes the business like really low risk. I know a lot of people are like, well, what if what you buy doesn't sell? Well, it does sell and you have a history of it. So it's almost like, okay, you have like a 95% probability of winning in this purchase. Are you going to do it? And if you don't, then you're just not cut out for business. Simple as that.
Yeah, this is part of the mindset that I was telling because entrepreneurs, they are risk takers, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people that are in the corporate world, they are actually risk averse.
Oh,
So
terrible. Yeah. Um, so I've worked for organizations that their entire purpose for existing is to avoid risk. And I find that those are the people that should not get into business because they can't get past that, right? And they can't make a decision that's going to benefit them. They're always thinking about the company, the company. And to be an entrepreneur, sometimes you have to be a little bit selfish. Like you have to do things for you.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like there's something in the entrepreneurial mind that kind of accepts that for you to grow exponentially, you have to take these risks. You have to think about yourself first. And you have to, there are moments that you say, like, people are telling me not to do that, but they don't have a company. They don't have the companies that I do. They don't understand where I am and they don't have the experience that I am. And then you have to go on the opposite direction that most of the opinionated people without
Well,
experience
everyone
they tell
everyone
you.
thought I was crazy when I left my job, right? I didn't have to leave my job. I was making good money. I ran my business. My business is very hands off. I didn't have to leave my 9 to 5, but I just knew that I deserved better. Like I wanted more free time. I wanted more time with my family. I wanted to travel on my schedule, not a vacation calendar. And it it was because I started my business that I was able to do all these things. And yeah, being risk adverse is definitely not going to drive anything forward.
And there's part of me that think that it could be cultural. I was raised. I'm Brazilian. I was raised
Mhm,
by baby boomers,
mhm.
and then it was like you have to study, you have to go to university, you have to get a decent job that you're gonna grow in there. Then you're gonna buy a house, you're gonna have a family, and that's it. That's life, right?
Yeah. And
So
I
a
bet you
lot.
everyone thought you were crazy when you said that you wanted a business or you had a good job and wanted to leave it. I went through the same thing, till this day. My mom worries about me, right? So I make
Same.
I make I make in a month what I used to make in 2 years working a full-time corporate job. And she still worries about me. She's like, "But the stability." I'm like, "No, like don't worry about stability. I always find a path because I'm always testing new things and I'm always evolving into the next thing, right?" So that's the other thing about business. Like it's interesting, and you've probably found this too, but when you have a business, any business, you always have two, like the one that you currently have and the one that you're growing into. You know what I'm saying? So I discovered LinkedIn last year. I was able to grow that very quickly. And because of that, a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn to figure out how I did it. So now, like, people come to me for consulting on how to grow a social media brand and how to monetize it. And I've had a few clients that have done extraordinarily well. So I have a client that I helped a couple weeks ago who had a decent sized following, but was stuck at like that $15,000 to $20,000 a month. After one conversation that we had together that we did through a consulting engagement, he grew to $35,000 a week. So like it's had a big impact on him, and it's just based on things that I've learned, right? Like I'm not a guru, but I know what works for me, and it's easily replicable to other people that have similar offers.
And you see, it's like, and because you took that leap of faith, right? Well, the way that you started, from what I know, is that you had the job, the day job, and
Hmm.
then you were working either before, right early in the morning, when you got back home, and weekends. That's how you
Yeah,
started to grow, right?
yeah,
And then you took the leap of faith and said, you know what, see you all around. You were already making money that could replace your paycheck, and then you're like, I'm gonna buy back my time, I would say, right? And then invest 100% of my time in the business. That's how you kind of started.
yeah. So I started by selling retail products online. I did that for several years while I had a job.
Hmm.
So I left my job when I wanted to become an influencer, like so to speak, right? When I started promoting on YouTube, when I started promoting on Instagram, when I started promoting on LinkedIn. So I wanted to make that big, and I wasn't able to if I was fettered and tied down to a job.
Hmm.
And the kind of things that I say on the internet, right? They're not the kind of things that an employer is going to allow.
Hmm.
So, but that's what I'm doing now, right? And it's grown so rapidly that now it's become another business because people want marketing. They want to learn how to do this because personal branding is such an important thing these days. Anyone can build a personal brand. It doesn't take a whole lot. You just have to put words on a screen. So on average, every time I post something on LinkedIn, like if I calculate all of the revenue that comes in from all the leads that we generate and the sales calls and everything else, we make around $4,500 on every post. It takes me 15 minutes to write one. So it's not a big time investment and it's really good return on investment.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I wanted to to go back, something you mentioned, right? When you said that you have two businesses, the one that you currently have and the one that you are growing in your head. I
Yeah.
wanted you to talk more about this because this is something that a lot of people trying to get into entrepreneurship, they don't oversee that, and I think you stumble on that after the fact as well, right?
Mhm.
After you build your own initial business. Can we talk a bit more like what you meant by that?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the people that avoid getting into business is they don't see it as something that's forever. And it's an incorrect thing to kind of have in your mind because your job is also not forever. And when you're running a business, you get clear signals of what's working and what isn't working. So you're always pivoting. And it's almost like if you pivot enough, you just become a different business altogether. Make sense? So, for instance, like when I started selling online, I started selling used books because it was the only thing I had accessible to me. But then I started discovering other categories. And within a year, we never sold another book again. And we haven't sold another book in 9 years. Now, I also learned a lot about outsourcing. And, I have clients, for example, that we teach operations to for e commerce. And they start as online retailers, but then they realize that there's a lot of money to be made in providing logistical services to other retailers, right? So they start warehouses. So they become a transportation business. They become a warehousing business. They become a fulfillment business. And, as time goes on, they just leave whatever doesn't work anymore and just focus on that one thing. Eventually, I see myself getting into marketing because I can help tens of thousands of business owners, right?
Mhm.
And it's one of those things that I know I can do because I've done it and it's working and it continues to work. And as I experiment, I start gaining new skills within the marketing space. So I've recently learned how to build landing pages that convert. I've learned how to run webinars that work and they fill up, and I fill them up organically, which means I don't have to spend money on ads. I've also learned ads because I used to have to run ads in order to get people to my other profiles on YouTube and Instagram. So I understand how that world works. And I learned how to build a community, which is also a super monetizable skill, and that's what I'm helping other people with right now. So it's you're always becoming, a better business person just by learning and executing. I think that's the biggest thing. Like what you learn, you have to put into action. Otherwise, it's just wasted time. I always tell people like, hey, I know you're learning all these things, but what are you actually doing? Right? Because the ROI on research, the ROI on learning is nothing unless you put it into play.
Yeah, there's one of my mentors. I also I have my mentors, my coaches, and he says that instead of growing your, everyone talks about having a to-do list, right? But a lot of people, what they have is like a to learn list. They keep learning, keep learning, they
Yeah.
keep learning, but they never do it,
Yeah.
right? And it's interesting for you to kind of, what you're literally describing is that as your business starts to grow, you see other opportunities for you to learn something that is actionable that will take the business to a next step. And
Yeah.
then once you're up there, it's just like going up mountain. You have a better perspective of the situation. You see opportunities you couldn't see when you were like 3 4 steps down. Yeah. Every time you go up, you see something new. Oh, now you see that you the marketing is important because you used to use them, like, so you invest your time that you freed up by growing your business, and then maybe putting some people in there to make it more automated as well, either people or automation themselves, right? And then you invest your time to learn something that will grow the business a bit more, or you're going to diversify as well. That's
Yeah, exactly. So I put a lot of focus on learning like sales skills, and that really helped because that I was able to close a lot more deals, which ultimately meant I could invest a lot more money in ads, which meant that I would get more calls on the calendar. But that created a bottleneck, and then I needed a sales team. So then I had to learn how to manage a sales team. So that's another skill. And then, I don't want to manage the sales team all the time because that's a lot of work. So I had to hire a sales manager. And right now I'm working on getting an operations manager to help me with like operations KPIs and just like really figuring out like where the leaking buckets are in the business. Because I can't do everything. And that's how you become a higher level entrepreneur, right? Because one thing is to be a business that has employees and can run on its own, and it's totally different to have a business that's basically your job that you show up to and that you have to do every day, and if you don't do it you don't eat. If you're like that, like, you may as well just have a job, because it's the same level of security. In fact, I think the job is better because at least you get some sick days. If you get sick, you get program vacation time when you're going to get paid no matter what. With entrepreneurship, that's the one thing that you're not going to get. So you need to figure out a way to build it in such a way so that you're not a slave to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said that, because when people are trying to get out of the 9 to 5, sometimes they take the leap. They're like, I'm good at this. And then it happens a lot with creatives, right? So designers, for example, they get out of an agency and they're like, I could do that better. And then they start their own agency, they get one, two clients, but they literally do what you said, like they buy a job,
Yeah.
their own job. So they get out of the job and they buy a job where they work even more than they were working. And then they justify saying like, oh, but it's all mine. I don't have a boss. Like, actually you do. All your clients now are your bosses, and you
Yeah.
cannot take the same holidays. As you said, you don't have sick days, because if you stop, the whole engine stops. You are the engine. And what you are talking about is literally that step where you you actually become an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
When you start buying back your time from the things that you've learned and the things that you do, and you realize that the only way for you to grow is if you start hiring people to do some of the things, and ideally things that they can do even better than you can do it, because this is literally the way that I do it as well, right? I learn the new things and I apply, and then as fast as I can, I'm like, it's working, let's find someone to take this out of my plate, and they're going to be doing something better, right? But this goes into more refinements of the mindset of an entrepreneur, that I would say. Like, what started to click for you to say, I don't want to do this anymore, it's like someone else needs to do it, otherwise this is not going to grow. What happened that made you take
Um,
this decision?
so when we're talking about the e-commerce business, like, I was doing a lot of the shipping myself. That's when I discovered that I could have everything shipped to a third party to deal with it. And then I never touched another product again. And it's been years. And then I was like, okay, well, that was good. What else can I do this with? And slowly but surely, most of the functions in that company became outsourced and done for extremely low rates. So it just didn't even make any sense for me to do them anymore. The way that that business is structured, I don't think we put in more than 4 hours a week into it. There's certain times of the year where we might double that and put 8 to 10 hours a week, but for the rest of the time, we're not touching it. We don't have to worry about it. It's fully automated. All we're doing is placing purchase orders to replenish the inventory that has sold. Now, for my coaching business, that grew very quickly as well. So the only thing that I still keep there is creative direction of the content. Like, I still write my own content, I still script my own stuff, I do my own YouTube videos. That's it. But everything else, like, when when my sales calendar became full and I was taking sales calls all day, it was fun. I like the adrenaline, but it also kept me busy all day. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't build a business to be a worker in it all the time. So I started building out a sales team. So I've got a sales team, I train them, I've coached them, and now I've hired a sales manager for them. So I don't even have to do that anymore. We've got a guy doing our KPIs now. That's his job. He goes into the CRM and he manages all of that. So the next logical step for me is to do more things like this, like getting in front of other people's audiences, doing podcasts, doing keynote speaking, that kind of thing, because that's going to really help me by growing my audience. And that's my next stage.
Yeah, yeah, and identifying these bottlenecks, right? Usually, it's like when it's taking a toll on your time.
Hmm.
That's the opportunity there. Like, okay, this if this can be replaced, and you mentioned one thing that is important. Like, you probably know how much your hourly rate is, right?
Yeah,
In a sense that whatever you earn in 1 hour, you can hire someone else to do that task
yeah,
for way less than, or even for anything that is less than what you make, it will be worth it. But because then you have more time and you are at the stage of like, you are the personal brand for all your businesses, right? So you
yeah.
have the e-commerce, now you have the community, and being a community leader, I wanted to talk a little bit about that too. It's like, what had to change in your mind to adapt to this new role, I would say.
I just put myself in the perspective that people need help because I wish I had help when I started because I didn't have any. Like I literally just had to figure it out and I had to spend a bunch of money to test things and I lost a lot of money. So I figured, okay, if I can provide an environment where people feel like they're getting supported and helped, they're going to be grateful and it's going to work. And when I did it and it worked, and I've made quite a few people millionaires because of it, there's a lot of reciprocity. So what's interesting is I've helped people grow, and now they're helping the new people that are in the group grow. So now I have to do it less. I still make myself available for people. I'm present on video 4 times a week. Like I show up, I answer questions, I guide people, I make connections. So I find that as a community leader, like what I do now is I connect people. So I help them get connected to the right services or the right professionals so that they can grow their business the same way I did. Because I don't pretend to know everything, man. I just help people navigate. If they have a problem, either try to solve it for them or show them how to solve it themselves or connect them with an expert that can solve it for them.
Yeah. And talking about helping, the help that you didn't have, let's suppose that you were able to go back in time and be the mentor that you never had. What would be, if you had to restart all over again, but as and mentoring yourself, what would you tell your past self how to start the business and then achieve what you achieved in the shortest time ever?
Um, so I would say you have to pick the right opportunity vehicle. You know what I mean by that?
Let's peel it.
Okay. So you're not going to get rich selling newspapers. So if you're a newspaper dealer and that's your passion, that's great, but that's not going to make you any money. So you have to pick the thing that is going to give you the most amount of money in that period of time. And I see this a lot, right? Some people come to me because they're mindset coaches and they want to coach people on mindset. Well, guess what? They're like mindset coaches have to be the brokest coaches of them all because nobody really wants to pay for that. The people that need mindset coaching don't want to pay for it. Simple as that.
Sure.
Right? So I'm like, okay, we need to help you transform your offer into something that people can actually purchase. So how do we make it an ROI activity? So that's an opportunity vehicle, right? How do we take mindset coaching and make it into something that is sales related because then you can pitch it as an ROI thing, right? Because if you can transform your prospects, point of view during a sales call because you're a mindset coach and you can teach that in a technique, that's a lot more valuable than just being a mindset coach and just talking foo-foo shit, right?
Mhm.
So that's the kind of thing. Like you got to pick the right opportunity vehicle. For me at the time, it was e-commerce. Like the thing was just like you could not go wrong in e-commerce. You could not go wrong. You could put anything up on the internet and it would sell like this. So what's the next opportunity vehicle? And if you're not on that opportunity vehicle and it's not going to get you to your goal fast enough, then you need to pick a different one. So that would be one piece of advice. The other thing I would tell my past version of myself is that you have to make decisions not as the person that you are, but as the person who you wish to be. You know what I mean by that?
I like that. I like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean by that?
Let's go. I know because I studied a lot about this too. It's like
Okay.
it's more
Yeah,
about you taking the actions as if you were already that person you want to be, like doing it.
exactly. Right. Because if you're only making decisions from the version of yourself that you are, that's what's kept you at that level your whole life. Simple as that, right? So if you want to be a business leader, make decisions like a business leader. Don't hesitate, you know, don't go on a coaching program just to learn because again, the ROI on learning if you don't execute is zero. So a business leader actually takes what they learn and they execute it. They actually go and do it. And the other thing I would tell myself is that once you're in the opportunity vehicle, do it long enough to get good at it. Because, oh man, like countless people, they get into an opportunity, they think it's going to be easier than they anticipated or easier than the marketing company led them to believe. And then they start and then they realize, shit, this is hard. And they do it just long enough to realize that it's hard and then they quit because it is hard. But if you get past the point of suffering and actually like start getting small wins and iterate and experiment and get rid of what doesn't work and just stick to what does, everything works. You just have to do it long enough to get good at it. That's another thing I would
Yeah.
say to myself.
Putting the
The other thing,
minimum reps. Yeah.
the other
Go
thing
ahead.
is like I would tell you to get around the right people, right? Everyone's going to tell you you're crazy. Everyone's going to tell you that you shouldn't do it, that it's too risky. Those are the wrong people. Like those, if you look at their financial situation, if you look at the people that are giving you this advice, most of them are poor people, right? So if your goal is to get richer, don't listen to poor people. Get around people that are doing better than you. And that might cost you money, right? Like, there's no reason that somebody who's very successful or wealthy or making things happen is going to want to hang out with a lower level person that isn't at that level. It's very unlikely unless they're like a very close childhood friend of yours or a direct relative because the level of value that you can bring to that person is very limited. So what I had to do to get around successful people is I had to pay for it. I had to join their masterminds. I had to join their communities. I had to pay for their courses. Even though maybe I would never use any of what was in the course, I just wanted access to the network. And these communities can be expensive. They can cost like I've paid $4,000 a month to be in one of them, right? But the connections that I made there were infinitely profitable to me. And those connections are still there. And now I'm at the level where I can actually add value back. So the synergy there is just, it's amazing, right? Because I help somebody who's making 15 million a month and they just say one thing to me and I can make an extra 50K a month because of it. And the reason that they have the insight is because they're just doing everything that I'm doing, but 100 times more. So they see what works and what doesn't quicker.
Yeah, these are kind of like going back into the analogy of these steps, right? Like the more you grow, the more you go up, the better you see the opportunities. And the opportunity that you touched that I really love because this is something that I did it myself is like it's worth for you to pay for being part of these networks, that they will open some doors, like they will open either doors inside your head, they're going to remove some limiting beliefs in your head, or they're just going to see a pattern that you haven't seen it, and then as you said, like one conversation, sometimes like 5 minutes, they tell you something that it was like worth a lot of money, and you're like, oh my god, like, and I was like even considering like should I join this community or not.
The biggest eye-opening thing for me is like joining some of these communities and meeting people that are making tens of millions of dollars and they're not special. They're not even smart. They're not even smart. And the biggest like limiting belief that I had was that it wasn't possible to make that kind of money unless you were brilliant or inherited it. But then you meet people that had it way harder than you ever did. They came from the worst kind of families, from absolute poverty, just got out of jail kind of level, right? Or came from a war-torn country with nothing, and they're making it work. So that made me realize that whatever excuses, whatever garbage I was telling myself, nobody cared, man. The reality is, if you just do the thing, it's gonna work.
Yeah, yeah. Put in the reps, right? Like even when we were talking about personal brand, and you said that you started putting content in there, it takes you 15 minutes, right? I'm pretty sure that when we always started, it took longer than 15 minutes to write a piece, but it
Yeah.
usually takes longer because we overthink a lot,
Well, it
and
took me
then
6 months of not getting any reach, not getting any customers, and figuring out like, okay, these are all the things that I'm doing wrong. These are all of the reasons why this isn't working. And then once I figured it out, it became really easy. But I went through that period where most people would just quit. And I see it all the time. Like even in communities that we're in now, I can already tell that people are going to fail because they're all excited at the very beginning, and then they put in the minimal amount of work, and then they're like, "Oh, this doesn't work," and then they quit, and then you never hear from them again.
yeah, Alex Hormozy says that you have to count in units of hundreds, right? Like if you haven't done at least 100 times that thing, you haven't done one rep, right?
Probably,
So
yeah.
yeah, so this is more like, okay, like if I publish once a month, you're gonna have 12 reps in a year. It's like, and then you don't see the return.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if you did it like once a day.
When I was trying to figure things out, I was publishing 3 times a day. So I was getting 3 times more data than somebody that was publishing once a day. And, out of those, I'd have some winners. And now I have so many winners that I could just repost everything I've ever written and it'll work.
Yeah,
You know?
it's funny because I work with marketing. A lot of marketing has their own rules, right? Digital
Yeah.
marketing, when, how much you should uh, post on social media. And I did an experiment last year that was like to go against it. And the fact that I am part of the marketing industry, I had to go against even the people that I hired, and they're like, "You're crazy." Because when you said I published 3 times, I started publishing shorts in all of the social media channels at the same time 3 times. I knew that a lot of things wouldn't work, right? But as you mentioned, it's like I started to see some winners, things that I had no idea it would work, and we went against every specialist in the area saying that you shouldn't post that much, right? So for me, it was more like I was in that mentality, and then for like almost 2 months, I was publishing 3 times a day everywhere, including TikTok, which was like a brand new channel. And I found out that it's the easiest place for me to try new ideas.
Yeah, it's good to
It's
test
better
on
than TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because you can test the same, you know, post or the same reel 15 times with a different hook and see which one sticks, and then you launch that across all the other platforms.
yeah, yeah. And it goes back into the ads that you mentioned, right? Ads is it's nothing but that. It's like you have like some hypothesis, you test the hooks, you test the different media that you're going to use. Is it going to be a video? Is it going to be a photo? What's going to be in the photo? What's going to be in the video? The sequence, and then you start getting some results, and then like you find the winners, and then you create variations of the winners, right? So this is kind of like I've been doing as well, like on the content creation, and and which are what makes you different than the other people creating content out there nowadays.
Nothing, man. I mean, I could tell you I'm the best thing since sliced bread, right? But I think different people are going to connect with different personalities. So I don't have to try to convince anybody to follow me. I think there are enough people like me in the world that, understand. I think there are enough people out there in the world that have a family, have kids, have priorities that go beyond just having, oh, I want a Lamborghini, right? Because there's a lot of people that will attract that. Where I think like the type of person that's going to follow me is a more intelligent, person that's had a good job for a long time, but feels, sorry, too many chimes, but feels like there's something more that they should be getting for the amount of effort they're putting in. So when I produce content, I'm talking to those people. I'm not talking to everybody. I'm talking to people that are like me, that have similar views, you know, they want the same things as I do, which is more time and to have a better life, working as little as possible, and also doing something that gives meaning to other people, gives impact to other people. So if I help somebody make more money, there's going to be, I just feel like there's going to be people that resonate with that messaging, and others that won't, right? Other people will look at me like, oh, who's this guy? Who does he think he is? Well, they're not relevant to me anyway, so I don't care.
Yeah. Eh, and this I don't care is the thing that I wanted to touch, because when you're creating content, it's important for you to write content to attract, but at the same time to repel the people that are not your ICP, the people that do
Yeah,
not resonate with the content.
yeah, I did a video about that on my YouTube channel where I actually talk about the different types of buyers that there are, and there's some ones that I actively work to repel. Like I just,
Mhm.
and if you want to see what that is, you'll have a good laugh, but check it out. Like I actively do my best to make sure they never end up on my calendar. And I
I
do that
love
through
that.
my content, through my screening process, and it works, right? Because if you can get people that are actually genuinely interested and convicted about what you're doing, then you're going to do well. But there's certain types of people you just want to get rid of because their worldview is not matching to yours, and you just don't want to even deal with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we are running out of time. I wanted to close with one thing.
Yeah,
What is the following company, the next one that you're building in your mind, and what
yeah.
do you want to do with that?
So I think I mentioned it earlier, but like I want to become somebody that helps creators that are stuck at that $10,000 to $30,000 a month range, and that they can't figure out a way to get it to 100,000 a month. Because I think I can have the biggest impact on them because I was there. Like I used to be stuck at that level, and I was stuck there for a bunch of months, if not years. And it wasn't until I started doing things differently that things started sorting themselves out, and now I'm able to make, way beyond that. And I've actually helped a few people already achieve it, so I know I can do it at scale. So that's my next thing. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm piloting it with people that reach out to me directly. I'll show them how to do it. It usually takes 1 to 8 weeks. And it's one of the things that I'll chart a path of exactly what needs to happen for you to get to $100,000 months, and I'll help you with it. So the people that are starting with me right now are really getting a unique opportunity to get a lot of time with me, which is something that in the future won't be available. So in the future, what I'll do is I'll productize this and I'll just sell it mass market. But right now, what I'm doing is I'm building case studies.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
So
So
that's my next.
Pedro, whoever is listening to our conversation till now, where can they find you? The easiest way.
Okay, so they can find me on Instagram. I think you're going to drop the link below.
Yeah.
I can be found on LinkedIn, and I can be found on YouTube.
Okay. Perfect. Pedro, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation.
Yeah, it's fun.
Uh, yes, exactly. And we're going to make sure that you have all the social media in there and that people are going to reach out. Thank you.
That sounds good, man. Appreciate it.